Welcome back to I'm Studying Life, where we break down the future of finance and help you position yourself ahead of the system. Today, we're going to analyze an interview with an ex-City banker who views crypto as a Ponzi scheme that normal people should avoid at all costs. Okay, so who is Gary Stevenson? Well, Gary Stevenson is a British YouTuber who went from a working class upbringing in East London to becoming one of Citibank's most profitable traders. Nowadays, he runs and operates multiple social media channels dedicated to educating others and sharing his extensive knowledge on economics. During the interview, Gary states, "You don't need to stand out, you just need to fit in."
This, I think, is a very interesting thing about being, first about elite society in general, but also about being this kind of poor outsider in elite society, which is what you realize is these guys don't really give a fuck about being the best. Like, this is the thing, right? So I come from a poor background and my dad worked for the post office and I'm poor and my dad's poor. And if I don't do something big, I'm going to be basically. So I need to win. I need to win. But these kinds of people who go to LSE, who go to Oxford, who work on trading floors and in elite jobs nowadays, their dad's rich. They live in a nice, big, comfortable house with a nice, big garden. Their dad works for the investment bank. He's making €1 million a year, you know? Or they go to private schools. For all they need to do to win is follow the path that their dad sets them. So there's this big difference between poor people and rich people, which is poor people need to stand out to have a chance. But rich people, they want to fit in. This is the big difference because
Gary explains how many wealthy families pass on such an unfair advantage that their kids don't need to excel. They just need to do the same as their parents to maintain wealth. Well, that's exactly the power you now hold. Because of your foresight into assets like XRP, XLM, Quant, Algo or HBAR, your children won't need to hustle to stand out like you did. They'll simply need to follow your crypto path to continue the generational wealth journey. Crypto doesn't just build wealth, it rewires what's normal in your bloodline. Gary mentions, the people who already have assets just get richer, while others chase wages.
Our parents needed to work 5 years to buy an apartment. We need to work 50 years to buy an apartment.
yeah.
Basically.
Listen, I think,
Yeah.
to be honest, I think this is the big con which is being played on the Western middle class, which is they're being given higher house prices and told it makes them rich. When it should be becoming increasingly more and more and more and more obvious. Higher house prices make you poor because housing is a basic essential. Expensive housing makes you poor. Expensive energy makes you poor. Expensive food makes you poor, unless you are the guy who owns the houses, who owns the energy, who owns the food. And that's me. That's the rich. Like this is a class war, and the rich are winning. You know. And
He says rich people don't work for money. They hold appreciating assets. Everyone is working multiple jobs just to keep up. If you're holding ISO coins, you've escaped that trap. XRP and friends are not wages. They are tokenized assets to future financial systems, the very rails that central banks and institutions are about to migrate to. You're not just holding crypto, you're holding the pipes money will travel through. The working class has been turned into renters of everything, Gary says. He argues the economy has shifted so hard against the average person, they now rent homes, cars, and even experiences.
you can see this inequality growing. I'm not even trying to redistribute. I'm trying to stop the redistribution that is happening. You know, I consider myself extremely non-extremist. You know, what is happening is extreme. You know, this falling living standards in the last 5 years, this doesn't stop, Thomas. This gets worse and worse and worse and worse. You don't need to be a Marxist or a communist or an extremist to not want that to happen. If you do not take action against the wealth accumulation of the very rich with extremely large passive incomes, it is a mathematical certainty that they will swallow the middle class over time. And what that means is no home ownership for ordinary families, for your viewers, for your listeners, for their kids, for their grandkids. It means no wealth for government, which means no welfare state, no education, no housing, no healthcare.
This is where ISO holders pull away, because coins like XDC are already being used in global trade finance. ADA's entering governance and ID solutions. These aren't meme coins, they're utility coins tied to infrastructure. While others are renting their life, you're quietly owning the rails that run theirs.
Let's be clear here, okay?
So it's going to
your
everyone.
average person has a pension. What's the average size of an average pension?
I have no idea.
Okay, so let's say your average person has a pension of, say...
Oh, but we have it here. Choose your decile.
Okay, so in the middle, the average pension is £98,000. Okay,
Yeah.
so I'm here, I've got £98,000 pension. So I'm making passive income on my £100,000, say, or £5,000 a year. So I'm making basically £500 a month. So yeah, it's true. It's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's true. So an ordinary person is making £500 a month passive income, and a billionaire is making €4 million a month passive income. Do you think those two things are the same?
I don't recommend crypto because it's speculative, Gary says. Classic trad banking response. He dismisses crypto because of volatility. But here's the secret Gary won't admit. The very same banks he's defending are testing and piloting ISO 20022 tokens. The ECB tapped Ripple, XRP, for digital euro trials. JP Morgan quietly exploring QNT interoperability. South African Reserve Bank, Bank of Thailand, and Bank of England actively trialing ISO 20022 standards. The institutions are preparing your future. Gary just hasn't seen the documents, but we have. He goes on to mention the people who have done well for themselves and says they just need to fit in. He's almost, we wouldn't say bitter, right? But he explains how wealth is locked in once you're in the club.
Yeah, this is very clearly, the problem is when you have groups in society that have £4 million or €4 million a month passive income, if you do not do anything about that over time, then it is inevitable that they will take a larger and larger share of the wealth because it's impossible for them to do anything else with that very large passive income. If you look at the history of Europe, the history of the world, up until World War II, we all lived in extremely unequal societies with tiny, extraordinarily wealthy, aristocratic elites and enormous amounts of extremely poor peasants. That is because if you do nothing to stop wealth accumulation and compound interest of the very rich, then they outcompete everybody else over time and end up with all of the assets.
Your children don't need to build. They just maintain. But that's what your investment does. It locks in a legacy. Your XRP bag isn't a trade. It's a passport to the next system. In 5 to 10 years, the phrase born into wealth will include people born into ISO compliant portfolios. That's your kid, your family. Now imagine this. The CBDCs are live. Governments move faster using ISO rails. Trad banks launch tokenized securities on QNT-powered blockchains. SWIFT officially runs on XRP and XLM bridges. Legacy financial systems reward those who held early. That's you. And the irony? The same people who laughed at your risky crypto plays will be signing up to the services built on what you own. So, Gary may never see it, and that's okay, because you did. You held through the noise, you saw beyond the headlines, and now your future and your family's is in your control. So what are you doing to protect your ISO bags? Drop it in the comments, hit like, sub, and always remember to keep studying.